Welcome to the Jets UK Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andres Groves. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, Matthew Merrett. Matt, how you doing?
All good, my man. I was at Stamford Bridge last night to watch Chelsea take down AC Milan. The Jets are 2-2 in October.
Oh, yeah.
Harlequins had a good win at the weekend. We are bouncing back in a big way after a rocky couple of opening months to the new season. We are the arrow is pointing up at the moment.
So Matt brings his Chelsea updates as usual, and hopefully more positivity now. Obviously, we're in a last time. You've been busy the last few weeks with work, and you haven't been able to jump on. But the last time we spoke was obviously after the Ravens game. So we've had the Cleveland victory, we've had obviously the letdown versus the Bengals, but a good win against the Steelers as well. Now we're 2-2, so it's all positive, eh? So it's all looking really good. I mean, obviously got a lot more questions to answer, and this weekend game against the Dolphins will answer some of those one way or the other. But hopefully we'll see if this team is ready to take a step into being relevant and a decent team on the NFL landscape, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think over the first 4 weeks, there's definitely been signs of growth. I think most importantly is there's been real learning moments for this team. And you look at the Cleveland game was a miracle, but you could see in that Pittsburgh game that there was still that belief in the fourth quarter. There was still that kind of oomph, go get them. And that was like last season, the Jets, Robert Saleh, Zach Wilson probably don't come back against Pittsburgh. No. They probably don't have that belief. And this season, they kind of had the talent, they had the pieces, but they had that drive, they had that kind of go get 'em attitude to chase it down. There were some lovely plays in that fourth quarter. Corey Davis stepped up into the receiver we want him to look like. Michael Carter coming down with the interception in that final drive. The game management was perhaps the most impressive part of it. Letting the clock run down a little bit, getting it to a point where there's about 20 seconds on the clock, knowing that you're going to score that touchdown from the 3-yard line, having confidence, having faith, punching the ball in and not giving Pittsburgh enough time to run more than 2 plays. So all in all, it's looking up. I still think in our reviews of where the Jets are as a team and we're trying to build something, it's important to separate performances and results. And it's something I've banged on about. And the results, I think we all are taking. We're all on board with. Every single person would have taken 2-2 through the AFC North through the season. Yeah. Puts us in a position to hopefully get to around the 4-5 win marks by the bye before the schedule does ease off a little bit. Performances is where perhaps we can be more critical. Because I still think we're waiting for this one cohesive statement performance, defense, special teams, offense, firing for 3-4 quarters of a game at all times. Obviously, the Cleveland win was an amazing comeback, but it was a miracle comeback. And if they want something just as slightly wrong, it's not viewed in the same way. Pittsburgh game started off hot, finished off. Let's keep our foot on the pedal in those middle 2 quarters. Let's keep going. Let's build a 17-3 win lead at halftime. Let's keep it going. So much to be positive about, but also lots of things to improve on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all acknowledge that Pittsburgh aren't quite the team that they're normally their reputation, the name, the badge. When you think of them, they're not the team that they have been over the last few years, or the last decade or so. So a win against them is good, really, the results there, but you want a performance against those kind of teams. And the Dolphins, you want a really good performance against a team that is ascending themselves. If we can put that in, then you're right. It's about kind of seeing, you separate the two. When we go to Green Bay, when we go to Denver, those are hard places to play against. So maybe just getting a win in Green Bay, however you get it, would be a massive step, rather than the performance is less important. So it's all about experience, and they are learning. You can see there are steps that are taking in the right direction. Now, can we get a win against a division rival for the first time? Because we've knocked off a few things so far. Can we be competitive? Yes, we can be competitive. Now, can we go against a team who are ascending, who are a rival team, who have some very difficult parts to manage when you play them? Can we give them a really good game and maybe even get the win in a good performance as well? So really exciting challenge where we are right now to be at this point and to face this team. Right now, in terms of the injury reports, right now we're recording on a Thursday. lunchtime. So we've had the Wednesday report. I know Zach was limited in practice with the ankle, but they're not really worried about it too much. He's just taking it easy with him. It looks like Max Mitchell will be out with his knee injury that he got last week, but thankfully it wasn't worse. Quincy Williams, they say he's doubtful, probably won't play with his ankle, which is again another one was surprising that when he went down we thought he's out for the season. So the fact that he's a doubtful for this one is good for maybe his return next week or the week after. Brees Hall and Marcel Harris were also limited in practice, but again, no worries on them. In terms of the Dolphins, quite a few people didn't practice. Teron Armstead, for example, didn't practice. Xavier Howard didn't practice. And Jalen Waddle didn't practice. So, these are really main players. Even Melvin Ingram also didn't practice. So, whether, obviously, we need to see how they, do they improve? Do they stay, not practicing? But what we do know is that they're quite banged up. And even if they make it, if they're not practicing on a Wednesday for actual legitimate, it's not just a rest day, it's actually legitimate injuries, then, they're going to be carrying, if they do play, they're going to be carrying those injuries into the game. They're not going to be 100%. So that gives with obviously with Tua out and Teddy Bridgewater coming in, I don't think it's a massive drop off. I think Teddy's a very good backup as well, and that's not a knock on Tua. I just think it's actually praise on Teddy being a good player. And, with the Broncos last year, he destroyed us, right? So he's got all of the ability that you need with the weapons that he's got around him to be a problem if you don't manage him and get to him. So this team though is pretty banged up, and it gives us a chance to attack them in ways that you wouldn't normally have a chance to if they're more healthy. So hopefully we'll see how it goes. Let's see where the injury report goes in the next couple of days. Keep an eye on that for who we might be up against. But if we can go up against Nick Needham and who's the other one, Noah Igbenomini, or is it it would be Noah Igbenomini who would be backing up for Xavier Howard. That's a massive difference to Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, who we faced last year. Because obviously Byron Jones is out for a while now. So yeah, it's good to see we're pretty healthy. Knock on wood. We can't say a lot about the Jets in the last few years, right, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's a couple of positions, namely one which has taken a hefty chunk of the injury luck, and we don't need to get into that whole debate. But the rest of the roster is looking healthy, and I think it speaks not just to the talent that they've been able to bring at the top of the roster, but kind of as you begin to infuse with more depth, that when players get a knock and miss a series, a drive, a quarter, there's people there who can step up and are kind of ready to go.
Yeah. They've got some game experience, right? They gained some game experience while they're filling in, for sure.
I think the best example of that was, when did Brandon Eccles come on? Was it the Cleveland game?
Yes.
And Brandon Eccles comes in for Sauce and gets those two huge pass breakups in the end zone. And that's a 5th, 6th rounder kind of who you can rely on because he got meaningful snaps, because he's proved himself. You're not kind of worried about him, and you don't need to alter your game plan, alter your kind of approach, because he's proved himself. So there's kind of this longevity, and kind of the infusion of youth has paid off, and they're starting to build something on the injury side of things, and they've got that depth. I think obviously the offensive tackle is still a worry, and maybe
the tackle position's one that's just taken all of the injuries, right? So everything else can be healthy. We'll take the brunt of all the injuries so that everything else can be healthy or relatively healthy. I mean, the tackle situation is, we're looking at so Dwayne Brown has been activated. The 21 days for him to return has been activated. So I mean, they're saying we'll see how it goes in training. We'll see if he can go. Would be massive if he can step in, and I think Salah said he's going to keep things close in terms of what they're planning to do with AVT, because I think it changes. If Dwayne Brown can go, then you've got to rethink about how you're going to move things around. So interesting, because I think Nate Herbig did a good job filling in for AVT at right guard, and I think AVT did a great job respectively for what he did at left tackle. So we have got, that dude. You talk about that dude, like AVT. Oh my god, the job of him doing so good, and what we wanted, this is the whole reason why we talked about this when we talked about the value, and we moaned about people criticizing the Jets for the value. Be like,
whoa! The first time, this is
Yeah.
a good story. The first time I ever appeared on this podcast was
Right.
with you and David before that draft, and I asked both of you if you'd trade up for AVT, and you said you weren't sure, and I banged the table saying the Jets have to trade up for AVT. There is no way he falls to 23.
I didn't
And
think
they
that AVT
pulled
would drop
it.
that far, and I didn't think we would have to give up as little as we did. Like that, and the people talk about the value. Like the value was fantastic for me. I thought it was fine. Like I thought the value was fine. I thought we'd have to give up more. Like maybe this year's first, right? The second first that we got, we'd have to give up as well as next year's as a pair with the first that we were giving up to move up. So that was the caveat, right? You said that, and I thought that the cost would be too high. And knowing Joe Douglas, the cost wasn't too high.
He's walking it back now, folks.
I'm not walking it back. I'm not walking it back. I'm not walking it back.
He's walking it back. He's backpedaling
I'm just
on camera.
explaining why I wasn't sure about moving up. But let's just say we've got him, and what a guy, what a player, and just doing
His feet are moving faster than Sauce Gardner in the back pedal, folks. He's dropping yards a second.
No. I'll explain that. I did have doubts, but like I said, it was because of the cost, but not because of the player. Because me and David were just like you, completely in love with the prospect, and he's been fantastic since coming in. So
I had him 8th on my big board that year.
Yeah.
I thought he was a top 10 talent.
Yeah, fantastic, and he's been nothing but what we expected, and just part of this growth of this team. So shout out to AVT, absolutely incredible job. But yeah, I mean, let's see where we are with the tackles when we get to Sunday. But the good thing is that things are going to be improving. Even if Dwayne Brown can't go this Sunday, you would maybe hope that he's there for the Green Bay game, which will be needed with what they can throw at you. Even though the Dolphins are no schlubs as well, at attacking the line. So we will see. But hopefully we get that improved. And Zach has a little bit more time because the pressure rate last week was crazy. He only had 1 sack, but that's down to Zach just getting out the pocket, getting the ball away. He did a lot of work that way. If we can actually block a bit better, give him a little bit more pressure, a bit more time, he can operate a little bit more efficiently in the first half than he was last week. So, yeah, exciting times. We'll be back. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to be speaking with Simon from the Dolphins podcast. So we jump right into the intro. We're really excited to get back into it, and I forgot to do the intro properly. But yeah, Simon from Dolphins is jumping on. We're going to go to the interview now with him to preview from his side of the game, and we'll be back to preview the game from our perspective afterwards. So here we go to the interview with Simon. Okay, so I'm joined by Simon Meyers from the Dolphins UK Podcast. Simon, thanks for joining me on the pod.
It's great, Andres. Thanks for having me on. Delighted to talk about the Dolphins with you and your listeners.
Yeah, it's a first divisional game for the Jets. We did our tour of the AFC North, and 2-2 out of that. So we're pretty okay with how that turned out. And now we finish. We now finally get to our division rivals, the Dolphins. A pretty heated one with a lot of fans from especially the older fans. Maybe I'm more of a Patriots hater because when I joined the team, as you can imagine, in the last 20 years. But anyone who's been around a bit longer, the Jets Dolphins is the original rivalry. So
it's a great rivalry. Actually, we were funny enough talking about the rivalry on our own pod earlier this week, and I focused on a good historical matchup back from '86. I don't know whether you remember the 51-45 game at Giant Stadium when Marino and Ken O'Brien were trying to outduel each other, and what a game that was.
I was born '88, but I know the game. I know about the history of the team enough that I know about that classic. So the Marino O'Brien game for sure, and that's a classic. And let's hope there's more classics down the line. Starting maybe this Sunday, we'll see. Obviously, there's a few people out, and obviously we'll start with Tua. Obviously, we'll address the elephant in the room straight away. How are you feeling about the management of Tua and what happened in weeks 3 and then obviously last week in week 4?
I mean, there's been a lot of coverage in the media about what may or may not have happened during that Bills game when he got that injury. Listen, the only people who know for absolutely 100% sure what happened are the people in the room when he went off the field and got treated. And until the sort of investigation comes out, which I think it's due today at the time of recording.
Yeah,
we're not going to know any facts. So nobody else outside of the Dolphins who were in that room know the facts. The fact that they have maintained all along that they didn't do anything wrong, and they know what went inside that room at halftime, says a lot to me. In the fact that they don't believe that there was anything untoward happening with regards to the protocols that needed to be followed, and the fact that they allowed him to return to the game for the second half, and he played well. Let's not be we can't ignore that fact that he came on and showed no ill effects of a concussion during that second half and played really well and led the team to a comeback win, of course. I think from that point of view, they would seem to be in the clear. Obviously, we all saw what happened in the game itself when he got up and he wobbled.
Yeah.
Clearly, to the naked eye, that appeared as though he'd got a head injury. But obviously, since then, he's said, and the team have said, it was an issue with his back. And if, as the coach of the Dolphins, I was told by the medical staff that it was a back injury, I would allow him back in the game. If I didn't take the advice of my medical team to allow him back in the game, when would I take the advice?
Of course,
of the medical team?
It's McDaniel's in a very bad situation where it looks good for him to send his one of his guys out if you think he's got a concussion. Everyone says, he definitely had a concussion, but if the medical staff are saying he didn't and he's cleared to play, you got to play your starting quarterback,
absolutely.
That is, it's just obviously what happened on Thursday when you see it, and then you obviously look at what a second impact syndrome, and the way he was posturing, all the things after that big hit he took against the Bengals. It looked like our guy who had a second incident when he should have still been in the protocol. It's only in hindsight it looks worse. But yeah, I do think that the coaching staff did everything by the rules that they believe. But somebody, right? There's something, and we'll obviously know more when this investigation comes out. And obviously, guys, when this releases, we'll probably already know this as well. So, but we're recording before the fact. But something happened. Obviously, someone was let go. Obviously, the independent medical consultant was let go. So we just hope Tua can kind of rest up. We're pretty, it's okay that we're facing a backup this week from a Jets perspective, because Tua was really looking in sync with the weapons that you have, and that helps us as an opponent. But we really wish Tua the best of health, and hopefully, if it is 2 concussions in 4 days, it's terrible, and you have to really consider long term what this could mean for Tua. In terms of the rest of the season, in terms of the off season, what happened in the off season and moving into the early parts of the season, good start for you guys. How have you felt about the team going into the season and as the season's begun?
I mean, we came into the season full of optimism with a new coach and a new star wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. And a couple of new running backs as well in Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. And we all thought that this was a really good opportunity, not only to see what the new coach could do, because he's come in with a good reputation as being an innovator and a genius at coaching, but also to see whether Tua is the franchise quarterback that we all hoped he would become. Having said that, we looked at the schedule when it came out and saw it was going to be a really difficult start, because we had the Patriots first out, then we had the Ravens, the Bills and the Bengals, all of which have got star quality franchise quarterbacks in place. And it wouldn't have been a surprise had we come out of the first 4 games at 1-3. The fact that we've come out the other way and we're 3-1 is a really good position to be in, I think, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think obviously those comebacks against some of because what you did against Josh Allen and Lamar, kind of overturning their ability, and they've been looking great everywhere else, so it's not like they're in bad form. They were a legit team. You beat them. The Patriots, well, I'm not hot on the Patriots at all. I don't think that's a big opponent. Even before the season, I don't think they have a star quarterback. Their roster looks terrible. The thing that's keeping them up is coaching. Obviously, they've got an incredible coaching, even if it's bare bones at the moment. Bill Belichick, that one dude, is just an absolute genius, an incredible coach, and he's propping them up. They're going to finish probably 500 purely on his effort alone, because they are. I'm not a fan of them. I'm not scared of them at all from any point of view. So, but obviously, Bengals, another tough opponent, another tough quarterback, and obviously that's where they overturned. Obviously with Tua going out, obviously Teddy wasn't able to kind of maintain it, and obviously they gave you their first loss of the season. In terms of going into this game now, 10 days rest, all the palaver obviously coming out of that game with the Tua situation. How are you feeling about Sunday's game against the Jets?
Well, we know that Tua's been ruled out and Teddy's going to start at quarterback.
Yeah.
I think had Tua been declared fit, I'd have been a lot more confident of a win. The fact that we've now got Teddy in as the backup, and he is a backup for a reason. I would say he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's a backup for a reason. The good thing is they've had the 10 days to prepare. I'm sure the team are fully confident. He did move the ball against the Bengals. It was just one mistake towards the end of the game that cost them when he turned the ball over with a bad throw. So depending on, I wouldn't say they need to put the game on Teddy's shoulders to win, because I'm not sure he's got that capability of doing it. If they're going to win the game, they need to make sure Teddy isn't put in the 3rd and long situations where there's an element of risk. In turn, that means establishing a running game.
Yeah.
And if they can establish the run game, that's going to be beneficial for Teddy in the passing game, and I think they'll be okay. But obviously, saying they're going to try and do it and actually doing it are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets' defense is getting better. It struggled a little bit, but it is getting better week on week. Had a decent week against a pretty poor Pittsburgh team. And you'll face them later in the season, obviously, as we're going around our divisions, right? So, yeah, at the moment, I mean, maybe with Kenny Pickett it picks up, but that combination of Pickett's first game and Trubisky wasn't much of a... I mean, it was good to see the defense playing better, but it's still not the greatest litmus test. So, against, even with Teddy B, with those two receivers specifically, I know Waddle might be a little bit nicked up. Even if he plays, he's probably not going to be 100%. Thankfully for us again, in terms of what we can manage, but I think it's going to be a good test for the defense, and specifically the defensive backs who have been incredible. I mean, Sauce is obviously the big heralded first round pick, and he's been incredible. But DJ Reed, who we brought in from the Seahawks, has been really, really good, even better statistically than Sauce, and he's been incredible. And our slot corner Michael Carter the second also has been great. They've been a really good trio. Against this lot that you've got, that you guys possess, I'm really fascinated to see Tyreek versus Sauce / DJ Reed, and see how they contain someone like that, because we've had bigger body guys, we've had more physical guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Rashard Bateman, but I'm really fascinated to see the guy who almost became a Jet go up against us.
Yeah, I mean, Teddy's got the arm. He can certainly throw the deep ball, and he's probably got a stronger arm than Tua.
Yeah.
As evidenced by the 60-odd yard completion he threw to Tyreek Hill in the Bengals game, where Teddy does not necessarily have the same skills as Tua, is that he hasn't got the quick release. So with a potentially suspect offensive line of the Dolphins, Tua's been able to get the ball out really quickly to his receivers, whereas Teddy, I'm not sure, has got that quick release. So that might be a potential issue that they have to overcome, particularly as the Jets seem to be turning the corner on defense now. And as you say, they did play well against the Steelers. I noticed the other week, because when we did our own podcast review of what the Jets were looking like on defense.
Yeah, I mean, Quinnen Williams is just playing outstanding right now. I mean, he's always been a good player, but he's just taking it to another level. And now the other guys around him are kind of figuring out how's the best way to kind of pass, rush the passer from their angle, and not being they're really undisciplined before, but they're getting better at that in terms of not allowing people to escape the pocket, things like that. So, we want another good performance. You obviously don't, and that's the way it is as rivals. But it should be a fascinating matchup on that point. Obviously, how are you feeling about Zach Wilson, the offense coming against your defense?
Traditionally, the Dolphins, the way they run their defense, they feast on young, inexperienced quarterbacks like Zach Wilson. Same for Kenny Pickett, if he's still the Steelers quarterback coming later in the season when we face up. They feast on the players like that because of the nature of the way they play. They blitz a lot. They put young quarterbacks under a lot of pressure and force them into mistakes. Now, they're able to do that because they have two really good cornerbacks in Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, who are arguably one of the best tandems in the league. Now, unfortunately, Byron Jones is still on PUP, so he's not going to be playing at the weekend, and X is dealing with a groin injury, so he's a doubt as well. So if both of those are ruled out, then obviously that means that they've got a couple of young cornerbacks who are having to be the next men up, if you like, and that would put a lot of pressure on them to do it for 60 minutes against Zach Wilson and what looks like a pretty good receiver core with Elijah Moore and Wilson, the other Wilson, and Corey Davis.
Yeah.
They only had to do it for a quarter and a bit against the Bengals, and that's when the Bengals were able to sort of pull away and seal the win last week. So to do it over 60 minutes is going to be a tricky, difficult task. So, but it really depends how much pressure they get on Zach Wilson, because their defensive line is playing really well, and they, as I say, they blitz a lot. With the linebackers as well, keep an eye out for Brandon Jones, the safety, who's registered, I think, one of the highest number of sacks for a safety over the last season or two. If they can get to Wilson and put him under pressure, they'll have success. If they won't, and Wilson has the time to find his receivers, then it could be a long day for that secondary.
It's interesting. I think it's when I looked at the amount of injuries and what you're coping with, while acknowledging there's some still great players still left who are fully healthy, there is an opportunity for the Jets to it's maybe a good time to be facing the Dolphins. Let's just say that in terms of you're not at your fully strength, so this may be an opportunity for the Jets to give you a real good game on Sunday. In terms of with all these people out or maybe have to come out, who's the guy who's kind of a bit unheralded league wide who could kind of make a big statement on Sunday for Jets fans to look out for?
Yeah, there is a player who is a rookie cornerback called Kader Kohou who went undrafted, and the Dolphins picked him up as an undrafted free agent earlier in the year. He has come from a very small school that nobody heard of. I mean, I can't even remember the name, but they're not a school that produces a lot of NFL players. So for him to find his way onto the 53-man roster of an NFL team is a really good achievement. And he's had to step in. As I said, the aforementioned Byron Jones has not yet played this season, and he's done really well. I think against the Ravens, he had a breakup of a long pass from was it the Bills game? As one of either the Bills or the Ravens game, I can't remember what, but he had a fumble recovery, he had a tackle for a loss, and he had a big breakup of a pass to stop a long completion, which towards the end of the game. So he's something of an unsung hero at the moment as a rookie.
Right.
He's not well known around the league, but he's been forced to step up given the absence of Jones.
Love it, Simon. A real gem that I haven't known. Like I said, I told you before the recording, I researched the opponents very well, and a lot of times when I speak to another person from another team, they give me someone who's like, maybe not a star player, but it's like just below the next level. And I'm like, I know that guy, but that's actually someone that is definitely someone off the radar and someone for Jets fans to listen to and see how our receivers do against him and see how it goes. So fascinating to see, and I'll look into him a little bit more before Sunday. In terms of we'll do the score prediction to finish, but in terms of a stat prediction that you want to throw out there, something that might happen in the game, what you got for me?
I think the Dolphins are going to have some good success in getting to Wilson. So, as I said, the key for them is to put him under pressure, and if they can do that, they'll get sacks. I mean, I'm not sure how well the offensive line are playing at the moment for the Jets, but if they can get 4 or 5 or 6 sacks, then the Dolphins will win the game. So that is my stat prediction for you. The Dolphins will get 5 or 6 sacks of Zach Wilson.
Wow, that would be quite a day for Zach. So let's see. I mean, the line is kind of, they're makeshifting. They had a left tackle, loads of left tackles dropping out, but Elijah Vera-Tucker, our first round guard that we drafted, he moved to left tackle and was really good. Like, the guy is just an absolute hero. And then the guy who replaced him did well at right guard. So they're kind of stabilizing. That might be the unit that you see. But Salah's keeping it very close to his chest, who may play on Sunday, because we may get Dwayne Brown back. That's a maybe. So we won't know, even when this gets listened to. No one's going to know until like who's active and who's not. So look out for that and who plays on the line. But Dwayne Brown might be back. If not, the line that played last week, did struggle a bit, but Zach's mobility got him out of it, and they should hopefully be better. As the game went on, they got better, so hopefully that'll be the case, but not for you guys. Hopefully you hope they have an absolute mare, and you do get your stat prediction of 5 or 6 sacks right. In terms of
it was a bit of a bold prediction.
It is bold. It is bold. I've got to say, it is bold. I did raise my eyebrows to that one. In terms of score prediction for the game, what do you think, Simon?
I think it's going to be close, particularly as we know Tua's not playing. As I said earlier, had he been playing, I think the Dolphins would be more than capable of winning. I think it's not going to be a high-scoring game either. I think it'll be really close. And I think the Dolphins still have enough on paper to edge it. And I have to back the Dolphins, of course. And I think they're going to win it 20-17. Maybe even a field goal towards the end will clinch it, maybe even overtime. But I see no reason why at the moment the Dolphins aren't going to win the game. So I'm going to go for a 20-17 victory.
No, don't worry. I wouldn't accept anybody else. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any opponent against the Jets, especially, are going to say, yeah, we'll lose. We're the team that they highlight. Yeah, that's a win. So you're always going to say. You're always going to say one thing or other, but no. Honestly, thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's been really good talking with you. Hopefully, injuries no more injuries. Everyone stays safe on Sunday, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's hope everyone comes out of it with a clean bill of health. And I would say to you, enjoy the game, but not too much.
Oh, that's what we always say. Yeah, enjoy the game, but not too much. But I don't know if that's possible. You're either enjoying it or you're not. That's it's just a binary experience, isn't it? So
it is. And I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks for that.
No, thanks a lot, Simon. So we're going to head back to me and Matt. Okay, so we'd like to thank Simon for jumping on with us there. Good chat with him. So, Matt, what is your key for the Jets offense going up against this kind of slightly banged up defensive backfield for the Dolphins, but a team that loves to blitz in that Dolphins defense? The
Jets offense. I think over the 4 games so far this season, Breece Hall has kind of improved a little bit. He's kind of taking those steps, and that's totally natural. Rookie, kind of getting used to the pace of the game. I think he's kind of ready to have a big day on the ground. And this might be Jets' offensive line dependent, if they can kind of hold it together, because they're obviously a bit creaky. But I think let's get Breece going early. Let's get him going hard. Let's get him going fast. Let's run the ball down, because that's how we're going to stay in this game with the Dolphins and kind of wear them down at home, get the crowd on your side, get kind of a bit of momentum behind you. So I'm really looking at Breece Hall having a big day. And that doesn't necessarily need to be doing a Dameon Pierce and breaking a 75 touchdown, but we'd all love that. But if he can just kind of keep his average yards attempts up in that close to the 5 yards of carry range, it sets the Jets offense up so well, because they're just consistently moving the chains. You're taking some of that pressure off Zach, who's going to have a tough game. I mean, the Dolphins have a lot of exotic looks. They bring cover zero, they bring pressure a lot. So getting Breece Hall going early, just keeping those chains moving, keeping field position, winning all of those battles will be so important. So looking forward to kind of seeing how he can take those next steps, and kind of let's hopefully maybe even like get that 100-yard game out of the way.
Yeah, the running game's definitely got to be better than it was against Pittsburgh, and hopefully even if it's the same 5 guys up front, they've got to do a better job. More, they did improve as the game went on, but we need to see it from the outset, because we need to get Zach into third. If we are going to get into third down situations, it needs to be third and shorts rather than third and longs, because this, with, like you said, with the pressure they bring, the exotic looks that they're bringing, pressure from different parts of the field, different players. It's going to be different for Zach, and it's going to be difficult to get longer kind of routes that kind of you need 10, 12 yards to get the first down, to get the ball out quickly and safely without him kind of having to assess everything so quickly. So if you can make those shorter downs, you can then the routes that you call for Elijah, for Garrett, for Corey, it brings Braxton into the equation. It opens things up, makes it a bit easier to kind of work within the playbook. But Mike LaFleur really is going to have to make sure that the routes are really kind of schemed to get Garrett and Elijah use their ability to separate quickly and get the ball out of Zach's hands quickly as possible as well. So I think that's gonna be key is the running game. To obviously chew up the yardage as well, and then getting the ball out of Zach's hands as quickly as possible, and that all comes down to the line. Just being better than last week. So fingers crossed. Let's see if we get any additions. If not, those guys are going to have to step up and just be a little bit better than they were last week.
Yeah, that offensive line, no bloody ineligible man downfield penalties. They're driving me insane.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
We're good for one or two a game, man.
Yeah,
the screens, the rollouts. There's always a bloody man downfield, and more times than not, it's the centre.
It's Connor McGovern. He's had a good season, but that's like he keeps on getting called up for those ones.
McGovern, not McDermott.
Yeah, McGovern. Yeah, McGovern gets called up for it. Yeah,
and just so sloppy, and it just pushes us back every single week. So just a bit of switched on, know where you're starting, finish the plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of what they bring, I think people like Javon Holland roam in the backfield, even though they may have weaknesses at corner, depending on the injuries they've got. Javon Holland's an absolutely fantastic young safety, and someone I'm quite worried about. Roaming around for when you're looking at interceptions, things like that for Zach. So he's a guy that you're going to have to really keep an eye out. And trying to get out of the, scheme him out of the way for certain throws, so that it's kind of look for those one-on-ones, and that way Javon Holland's scheming to one side or the other. Their rush, Jalen Phillips is looking pretty good. And Melvin Ingram, he's banged up. He didn't practice, and so maybe that slows him down a bit. But him and Jalen Phillips have done pretty well, create a lot of pressure. So not only do they bring blitzes and like extra pressure, their guys are also winning their one-on-ones as well quite well. So a difficult unit, but statistically not a great unit. Like they've still been beaten. I think the injuries are part of it. So we should have a bit of success, but there's a few things to watch out for. And I think if we can dictate the game, I think we can then put up some points and gives us a shot in this game. So the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins. Look at that, the Dolphins. The Dolphin offense. We're obviously without Tua, but a lot of weapons around Teddy to work with. What's your key to trying to slow them down?
Well, I'm going to start with the man you just mentioned, Teddy B. And the worry is that he's kind of the exact type of quarterback that the Jets have really struggled with over the last season and a bit under Salah, where it's that kind of dink and dunk, beat you up with those chunk plays, target over the middle of the field where you've got CJ Kwon, Joyner Whitehead, those kind of in and around that area. Get your tight ends going and Gesicki and kind of just play the ball out really, really fast. And I think that's what Teddy Bridgewater's perhaps best at. And I think McDaniel will have a plan to kind of exploit that. So the Jets need to kind of step up in coverage and have a plan for stopping Teddy Bridgewater, because you can't rely on your pass rush to get home when they're going to be getting the ball out so fast. So the coverage has to be spot on, and I'd like to see the Jets kind of get used to playing in press coverage, get people right up on the line of scrimmage, not just Sauce and DJ, but kind of get Kwon going up right in Gesicki's face and jam them, break up that rhythm, kind of slow them down, give them a bit of pressure, push them out of their comfort zone, because Teddy's only going to have had this 1 week of kind of really practicing with these guys, so they're not going to be as in sync as they would be if it was Tua. They're not going to have that timing down. So the more the Jets can do on the line of scrimmage, get hands on your man, kind of block him, send him off route, knock him a foot off step, just kind of make them think twice about kind of when they're planting their foot and going, they're going to have a chance. They're going to have to disrupt Teddy and kind of put it on the running game's shoulders, and they'll have a chance.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to find a way to kind of quiet Tyreek and Waddle down. Maybe Waddle being injured helps with that a little bit as well. If the groin is still a bit sore and he's kind of he's a bit gingerly during the game if he does play. But Tyreek is such a difficult person. 160 yards last week against the Bengals, who are not a bad defense, and he went crazy. He just does. He's probably gonna get his. He's gonna, Sauce or DJ Reed going up against him is a tall task. They're going to have to figure out.
It's a nice challenge for Sauce and DJ Reed.
It is.
If you look
really
at the
good.
wide receivers they've played so far, they've played a lot of bigger-bodied guys, and the question is, Sauce's biggest struggle of the season so far was against Amari Cooper, and that's a smaller, shiftier receiver.
Yeah, he's more of a technician, right? He's not quite as small as a Tyreek, but he's more in the mold of a route running technician.
Fast.
Yeah,
and that's when Sauce had his probably his only struggles of the season, when we obviously gave up that touchdown. So now it'll be an opportunity against Tyreek. You're going up against a small, fast, nifty route runner. Let's see you bring it, because you're going to have to go against these kind of guys. And I know he did a decent job in the playoffs against Jameson Williams, another guy cut from similar cloth. So bring your A-game, Sauce, and prove that you belong with these guys. You proved yourself that you belong with the big body guys like the Jamar Chases and the Higgins, and and
like Rashad Bateman and Bateman, right? Yeah, and the Steelers, who the Steelers bring. Yeah.
So now just view it as another challenge. Bring yourself against the smaller, niftier guys. You've got great practice. You're going up against Elijah Moore, shifty, nifty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bring that experience. So let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Jets should be really, a lot. They obviously probably doing a lot of this behind closed doors, but really kind of getting Elijah to kind of try to, replicate, what the Dolphins tried to do a little bit, because if you can get, in the Sauce is gonna, like I said, you probably want to see that test, because if Sauce can keep Tyreek quiet, or Reed as well, it's gonna be part of it. If they can keep him quiet, that's a next notch in their belt, and Sauce in his rookie.
Well, it's going to have to be both of them, because it's Hill and Waddle.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about Tyreek,
exactly. But
Waddle's an elite receiver too, so both of them are going to have to be.
They have two receivers, but the receivers after, I do like Eric Izukama, the rookie they brought in. But, Cedric Wilson, I think, is going to be... He may not play. He's also another guy who's dinged up on that massive list. Honestly, guys, if the list is massive for the list. But, yeah, I don't know if he plays. But even Cedric Wilson is not a guy. He's a good receiver, but I'm not worried about them as much as those first two. You really got to, if you can worry about those two and let, people like Cedric Wilson be the people who are tasked with trying to beat you, it makes, let that be the case rather than just allowing Tyreek to go crazy, because he can just get the ball in his hands. It's just such a hard thing to stop. He can just catch a slant and just take it to the house easy. So it's a nerve-wracking prospect, and the guy obviously that we were very close to getting it through the door until the Dolphins came involved and he wants to go down to Miami, which is all good for me because I'm not a big Hill fan. In terms of his game, he's a great guy. I'm not a big fan of him generally. And I'm happy with where we went, but now we have to deal with him with a division rival twice a year. So that was the problem with that whole situation, that the Dolphins were the other team, and he's done pretty well so far for them. So really, really exciting challenge for them. And let's see if this line, this defensive line, we praised them for how well they've done it. And Quinnen has done really well. The line has been a little bit quiet overall. Let's see them have a big game against this Miami line. Let's get to Teddy B quickly, make it harder for him to get the ball out, and just make his life a bit more difficult. I think we did a decent job last week, but the weapons that Teddy B's throwing to a little bit more than what the Pittsburgh had to offer last week. So
let's get the edges going on the line, because Quinnen's kind of been collapsing pockets, and Quinnen has had by far his best run of games as a Jet, and he's so dominant, and every snap he's got a centre, a guard going 2-3 yards back. But what's been noticeable is the edges are kind of over-rushing. And I'll tell you who's really annoying me. Carl Lawson at the moment is so reliant on his spin move that it's killing the Jets, because he goes into a spin and that means that he loses sight of where the quarterback is at the same time as Quinnen is pushing that pocket down the middle. And a quarterback, and Joe Burrow especially, was so good at this against the Jets, is as soon as Lawson loses sight of where the quarterback is, he just escapes out to that side and Quinnen can't get out there. The edges need to have a bit more discipline in closing off those escape lanes, because the Jets as a whole will get more sacks. They're trying to go for those glory plays a bit too much. Franklin Myers and Lawson. Have discipline and the results will come, because the pocket is collapsing. Just don't give the quarterback anywhere to go. Give Jermaine Johnson more pass rushing snaps. Give Bryce Huff more pass rushing snaps. And Carl Lawson, he'll get his. He's got the burst. And I thought, against the Steelers, he played well, and you could see him starting to get faster off the line of scrimmage. But it's almost like he's just going back to his favourite move because he's a bit rusty and blowing off the cobweb still.
Yeah.
He needs to diversify.
I think we have to allow, give him time. I think he has improved as time. I think he has improved in each game. He's had a few sacks in the last 2 games. He was a bit quiet in the first 2 games. So, if he can kind of improve as the season goes, knowing where he's come from and the injury he got, which is
absolutely.
But what we need to see more is Jacob Martin, less of Jacob Martin. That guy was just getting absolutely tossed around against Pittsburgh, and I was like, who's that? Oh, it's 54. Oh, is that? I was thinking maybe is that Carl being thrown? No, it wasn't. It was Jacob Martin's getting too many snaps for my liking, and you need to increase more for Bryce Huff. Make sure he's active first, guys. Yeah, get Bryce Huff because he was very efficient last week with the limited snaps he got. And Jermaine Johnson got a sack, and he's looked really good against the run as well as now
just
getting a
play
few
with
sacks
a bit of
as well.
discipline. It's a bit of discipline.
And I think they did better than they did against the Bengals, but we need to start continued and improved, more discipline, and kind of beating your man 1-on-1. Because if we can really beat those up with the 4 up front, it really allows us to defend things up in the back end.
It's not just beating your man 1-on-1 though, is it? It's kind of having an understanding of what's going on around you.
Well, yeah, what the other guys are rushing and what they're doing. So make sure you know where.
That's my point. Because if you try too hard to beat your man 1-on-1, you create an exit lane for the quarterback, and that's what's happening too much. And don't get me wrong, the defensive line this season have been very, very good. They've been impressive. Still work to be done, and I think they'll get there, and they're great. And Quinnen Williams is playing like a top 3 defensive tackle in football. Yeah. That one defensive tackle spot is kind of reserved at the moment, so you're kind of fighting for 2nd and 3rd place, aren't you?
Of course, yeah.
In the NFL.
But he's up there. He's up there, definitely competing for the 2nd best in the league. I think he's definitely within a shout the way he's playing. If he keeps it up, he should definitely be in for big honours. And be recognised for how well he's doing this year, because he's taken a big step in terms of the consistency. All 4 games have been really good performances from him, so that's really good to see. Right, well, we'll wrap it up here. It's very exciting. This is it, to have a meaningful, competitive, hopefully competitive game where you feel you've got a good shot against a division rival. With you're 500 after 4 games. It's everything you can see. It's just there's a lot more excitement just in our voice, just from where we are, and we're not even where we need to be. Right? But just to see that improvement excites us, and we're patient here. We're understanding, but we do want to see some improvement. We want to see to ascend to become a good team, and we want to see the steps taken. So this is another one. Go and give Miami an absolute nightmare, and let's come out with that victory on Sunday, right, Matt?
Yeah, 100%, and even more important for us in the UK, the Jets are on Sky Sports. We've got all the eyes on us, baby.
Oh, here we go.
We have the
I don't know about that. I haven't even thought about that. I just thought about the blackout on Game Pass because, for those who don't have Sky, for those who don't have Sky, he's going to have to figure out your VPN to get around the old blackouts of the Jets, which is not convenient for me. But you brought up another opinion.
Selfish, Andres.
Well, okay, guys. Selfish. If you've got Sky, it's fine. But you're right.
People on Monday morning in the UK, when you go into the office and you have your work chats, people always talk about the game on Sky Sports.
Okay,
that's what people focus on.
Well, that makes me more nervous for a different reason.
About the water cooler, the water cooler chats. The Jets have an opportunity to give us something to shout about when we're in the office on Monday, Tuesday next week, talking with our little NFL. There's about 10 of us in my office who kind of like the NFL, and we've got a little teams chat and whatever.
Yeah.
This is kind of our moment now. It's a big game on Sky Sports.
You're building up too much, Matt. You're building up too much.
Do not let the British fans down.
Oh, here we go.
Sports. We've got Neil Reynolds. We're going prime time, not prime time,
against his team.
UK spotlight. So good. And it's also how football should be watched. So let's do it.
All right. Well, you've thought, the whole eyes on us situation wasn't one I was thinking about, but now you've made me a little bit more nervous for the game. But it is an opportunity to go out there and change the narrative. For Zach to change the narrative that he's rubbish. That everyone, it literally is crazy how everyone just says he's rubbish. For the Jets to not be a joke anymore. Let's change the viewpoint of where people see the Jets, and especially in the UK with all the eyes on us on Sky. So, guys, whether you watch it on Sky whether you get around it with a VPN on Game Pass, or you watch it in the meetups or the Hippodrome in London if you want to go to that with the guys that watch it there. Wherever you want to watch it, let's hope we have something to cheer about on Sunday. So we'll be back early next week to recap the game, and enjoy the weekend, enjoy Sunday, and we'll see you next week.